we've just left Jerusalem, the Pool of Siloam. Where are we heading?
We're heading to the tomb of Lazarus in Bethany.
This is a pretty significant miracle. I mean, he personally knows the people involved.
The story even tells about how he wept. This was someone very close to him, but he used the opportunity to show the power of God in doing what he did.
Have you been there before?
I actually haven't been there before, so I'm looking forward to being there, but I've seen a number of pictures and a number of videos about it. We're probably going to have to get down on our hands and knees and crawl a little bit. And it's going to be dimly lit, low clearance, and it should be a real adventure. I'm looking forward to being there. This is a difficult place to get to now. A number of years ago, they put up the separation wall between Jerusalem and Israel and the West Bank, and a lot of tourists don't come to this area anymore.
We don't know exactly which tomb Lazarus was in, but we know that those tombs are first century tombs. So they're a good representation of what Lazarus would have been laid in when Jesus came to raise him from the dead. When Jesus heard it, he said, "This illness does not lead to death. It's for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." In this moment leading up to his triumphal entry and to his rejection and to his crucifixion, as he gets closer to Lazarus's tomb, everybody that he encounters is saying, if you had been here, you could have stopped this from happening. If you had been here, he wouldn't have died. He's already raised people from the dead. And so part of what Jesus is wrestling with as he approaches the tomb is these people that I'm closest to still don't understand. And so when it says that he was greatly troubled, it's possible that what he was greatly troubled with was the people closest to him still didn't fully understand who he was, and that hurt him deeply, and he wept. When you get into the vestibule, there's a rectangular opening in the floor that gives you access to just 2 or 3 stairs, and then you have to get on your hands and knees and crawl into the actual tomb area itself. Wow, Barry.
This is really tight down here.
It is. It's very stale air. It's not moving at all.
No, we're probably 10, 15 feet underground here.
It looks like over here there's a niche behind this block wall. You see people have left prayers written on pieces of notepaper. The entrance we took in is a 16th century entrance. They're saying that the original entrance would have been in a different spot.
That's right.
But in one of these niches is where Lazarus' body would have been laid.
Right. He would have been laid, according to tradition, over here on this side of the room here. Jesus would have been outside in the vestibule area when he called Lazarus to come forth. And of course, Lazarus rose from the dead and came out to meet Jesus.
Now, Lazarus had been dead for multiple days. Jesus intentionally waited after he heard that he was sick to give him time to pass away. He knew what he was going to do, even though the disciples didn't. And by the time he got here, one of his sisters was concerned about the odor that would have been there because he had been dead for 4 days. Now, according to Jewish tradition, one of the significant things about the 4 days is that Jews believe that after so many days of death, your spirit finally departed your body. And so for Jesus, he waited that long so that they would have had that understanding that his spirit was already gone. He was for certain dead before he called him out of the tomb. But Lazarus comes out and he doesn't look like someone who has been buried for 4 days. And so it astonished everybody. Now, all of this is really significant, especially in John's gospel, because the raising of Lazarus happens in John chapter 11. In John chapter 13, you're into Jesus' final week. And so you have the raising of Lazarus leading up to the death, burial, and the resurrection of Jesus himself. So it wasn't just a miracle pointing toward his divinity, but it was a foreshadowing miracle about what would happen to Jesus himself.
The raising of Lazarus was the event that really sent the Jews over the top, because once Lazarus was alive and he was being seen by people in the city, they wanted to quiet Jesus.
The text even emphasizes that they were actually seeking opportunities to have Lazarus killed. So this man that had just been miraculously raised from the dead, they were ready to kill him again, to get rid of him as evidence to Jesus.
Right.
And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me." And when he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." You know, this is possibly one of the tightest spots that we've crawled through to get to see something, but it was so worthwhile to come down here. following the chronology of Jesus' time on earth, he's foreshadowing his impending death, burial, and resurrection. If Jesus from Nazareth has the power over life and death, then death is not the end, and we have hope.